So I've had the privilege to travel abroad and spend time with a lot of different global leaders. And the more I sat down with these global leaders, the more I started to realize that the Western Church didn't just have things to give, but in my estimation at this point in time in history, had far more to learn from the global church. And we have the blessing we're in Phoenix that has a ton of refugees, ton of immigrants, ton of people here for school, ton of people here for business. So there's a lot of international leaders and pastors in the valleys. So also, over the last few years, just sitting down with international leaders, hearing their stories, hearing their prayer life, hearing how they've been filled with the Spirit, what they've seen God do in their nations, but then also being able to hear from them their sharp but gentle critique of the Western Church and the things we have to learn stuck with me. Every conversation started to build and build and build. And then also hearing from them this kind of mourning or trying to figure out, okay, what does it look like for the next generation in their church? And to me, that's the future of the church in the West and how we're going to really be able to make an impact in Phoenix.
And then our desire is to see how can we equip these people. And we start meditating in the book of Daniel. And we thought how Daniel was taken captive from Jerusalem to Babylon.
He's in exile in a foreign land, but yet he keeps with that promise and he keeps faithful in a foreign land, and he's able to be blessed and be a blessing wherever God takes him. So from that is where that vision came about, and we are constantly looking out in our city to see what God is doing, especially with these international communities that are in our city, and we're sharing this vision of how we can be blessed to be a blessing in our city.
Refugee families in Phoenix, Arizona are considered, I am one of them. We are considered takers, but we are not takers. We are the blessing for this nation. We are the blessing for our city. So in order for a younger generation to come up to this platform and show the world that they can make a difference, they can exemplify the blessing of Abraham and Daniel's and all these immigrant men and women of God with whom we read in the Bible. So the vision is to see the younger generation flourish and be a blessing for our city.
The idea of gathering ethnic pastors, or however you want to describe us, to pray together is not so we can look at the majority church, the Anglo church, whatever, and say, oh, they are bad, we're good, let's clump here and be with each other. It's more like we are in this context. How can we encourage one another to be a blessing to the majority, to the context around us, to the city around us? How can we move from surviving mode to just like, well, here's a small community, we gotta hang tight together, to, no, we are actually a gift to this nation. You know, whether people believe it or not, just like the people of Israel, they went as captives to Babylon, but they were actually a blessing to Babylon, right? So how can we live in that role of being a blessing to the city? So our prayer is always that God will use this new generation of leaders to not just be a blessing to their own communities, to their own ethnic communities, to their own background of their parents, but a blessing to the church overall.